back with another video. It's 6:57. I think I must have messed up something on my car because I moved the clock ahead of time, you know, and I don't want to do that, so I'll fix it when I'm parked and able to focus on that. But so, you know, I've been making videos for the last few days and just kind of throwing some things out that had been in my mind. Because it took me a long time to figure the whole picture out, and so now that I understand that my brother and my ex-brother-in-law had more of a role to play in this, you know, I'm extremely disturbed by it, but at the same time, it's like, well, you know, at least I understand what happened, you know, and it starts to make sense, and then all the people, the things that were being said, and how everything was kind of weird, you know, when I would go visit them. You just like I felt like they were having secrets and stuff like that. So it makes sense to me. You know, I'm extremely disappointed in these people, and you know, I will say that my mother, I'm disappointed in my mother because my mother never really, she doesn't really know how things work. Like, you know, she was a housewife. And that's nothing wrong with that, you know, when, you know, she was raising me and everything, but she never really had an understanding of how the world works. And she probably put faith in this little operation because even though it wasn't her idea, maybe she didn't even necessarily even agree with it completely, but she probably thought, well, you know, maybe this is for her own good, or where she goes along with things. Because if the majority, she seems to go by whatever the majority says. And just oftentimes what the majority says is often wrong, because the majority of the times people get swept up into herd mentality based off of some sort of propaganda, based off of their emotion, the need to feel like they're a part of something or whatever. But whatever the case is, you know, it's like I'm coming to terms with the fact that you know, I'm done. You know, I don't, like I said, I don't have any emotional feelings. I think when you experience something like this, something that painful, this painful, this abusive, you can't feel anything for that person. It's like, you know, would you fall in love with somebody who threatened your life? Would you fall in love with somebody who, or be friends with somebody who raped you or beat your kid or something like that? You wouldn't, okay? And this is pretty much the same thing. Or somebody who basically cheated you out of a life. I mean, that was my life. That was what I was going to do. That's what I needed to do in order to live. And, you know, I'm just like, you know, I'm amazed at how some of the people, a lot of the people were very gullible and actually thought that because a man who was married to my sister, who probably still is married to my sister, who's married to my sister, who has no connection with me whatsoever, would have any say-so in my life. And, you know, I have to say that a lot of that was, I think, racially motivated because, you know, some people tend to trust people who look like themselves, okay? And it's stupid, and it's a lesson that people really need to learn. Just because, you know, I'm a black woman, but that doesn't mean I'm going to trust every black person that I see. You know what I mean? I don't trust anybody, okay? I think everyone in this world is influenced by this sort of negative behavior, and nobody is exempt from it. You know, it's like, just because somebody looks like you doesn't mean that they are more trustworthy than a person who's not, that doesn't look like you. And in this case, I think that Jim used that to his advantage, you know, knowing that he could get people's attention and that he could fit in more, and that, you know, because this could happen to anybody. This could happen to absolutely anybody. And it does happen to white women. It does, okay? It happens to men as well. But in this case, I believe he used his race to further his agenda, meaning that he knew that he had an advantage because of him being, you know, a white guy. And really, Jim is not what you call, like, when I think of like white men of power, I think of men who hold high level positions, like, you know, executive positions. They drive expensive cars. They live in beautiful neighborhoods. Okay, Jim is like that, fake wizard behind the curtain, on the Wizard of Oz. He's not anything big. He struggles financially, him and my sister. They live in a one-bedroom apartment. They pretty much moved to Montrose with the hope of, getting a better life, but they've stagnated, okay? And I think that maybe Jim was jealous of my ability to make a decent life for myself. Even though, okay, I'm going to tell you right now, even though it's just regular office work, these people envy everything. Like, they think that I'm going to be working for some big company, or that I'm a CEO or something. I'm nothing like that. You know what I mean? But I think it was activism of care, where he was basically saying that people get so nitpicky and so jealous that they literally fight for the slop. Not to say that those kind of jobs are slop, because they're not, okay? They're decent jobs, but they're not anything like, well, I'm getting like all these perks and I'm getting all these advantages, or I'm like getting executive position. It's nothing like that, but to somebody who is struggling, and somebody who feels a sick sense of competition towards you in the first place, they think that anything, no matter how small it is a big deal. So they're willing to literally fight you for it. And it's, it's unwarranted, because I never wanted to be in competition for something like that. I never did, okay? But still, I can see why or how he used his race to his advantage. And unfortunately, a lot of people were gullible enough, blind enough, and especially because he threw in the religion thing. And what shocks me is, and I mentioned this particular employment agency before, this is supposed to be an equal opportunity employer, meaning they do not discriminate against race, religion, marital status, blah, blah, blah. All these employment laws are there for a reason. And I know that a lot of employers put this at the very bottom of their ad because maybe they feel like they're required to do that or whatever, but they don't understand what it means. What it means is that you are basically judging somebody based on their skills. That's it. That's why you're hiring them. You're not hiring them based because they're married to somebody, they're going to be married to somebody, they were married to somebody, or, based on their religion. I think a lot of people, there's nothing wrong with being proud of your religion, or you're glad that you are affiliated with a particular religion, but religion doesn't belong in the workplace. It doesn't belong in the workplace. Just like, I've been to people's houses where, the conversation's fine at the dinner table, and somebody mentions a political issue, okay, and it can get people fighting. It can get families torn apart. Okay, people can get so heated in these arguments, and the same thing goes with religion. You know what I mean? And it's different. Like, for example, if you are a teacher who works for a Catholic high school, then in that situation, the religion does matter, because the whole idea is that the teacher is supposed to represent the Catholic ideals. They're supposed to promote. It's a Catholic school, and kids are there to not only get an education, a secular education, but they're there because they want to be associated with the Catholic faith and have a Catholic environment, okay? So let's just say, for example, this particular teacher, who's a Catholic teacher, ends up getting pregnant or something like that, okay? Obviously, she committed a sin, right? And then I can understand why, because it's a Catholic organization. But most companies are not built to be religious organizations, okay? Most companies, like, for example, a plumbing place, a fashion industry, or whatever company it is not meant to be under those guidelines or fall under that. Okay, so that is a completely different situation. So when you bring in religion or politics, or race for that matter, into the workplace, you're discriminating. And how is it that these people couldn't see it? I think that this lady at this employment agency has something against me, because I did speak out before about my issue with this particular agency, because they were working with my family. They were one of the people who got conned into affiliating themselves with my family, which they should not have done. I never consented to any of that. And then also, I think they got bent on the issue of the religious factor because Jim was spouting his propaganda. Jim is not a good example of what a Christian is supposed to be. He's not, okay? And everything that he initiated and wanted to actually go into place is completely 100% against federal and state law. I am not supposed to be subjected to any of his requirements, or my mother's either. My mother never had this conversation with me. My mother has always encouraged me or allowed me to do whatever I wanted to do. So to bring Jim Culligan into this, and I rarely see this man. This man probably stalks my Facebook page or whatever, like he did back in 2008. Because honestly, he's out of sight, out of mind. I rarely see him. I would see them like maybe once every few years if I would even bother to attend a holiday meeting. I rarely saw him. But I know that he had a vendetta against me because when I was younger, like I studied with Jehovah's Witnesses, and he was offended because he thought that I was going to go ahead and start regularly attending his church or whatever. That's not my problem. He brings a religious issue into the workplace, okay? And it's a serious issue because he convinces other people. He leads many people into error, okay? This man completely walked over my life. He walked over my life year after year after year after year, all because he's a very selfish person. I seriously warn people against him. I'm a good employee. I work hard. I care about my work. I would say I cared more about my work in the past when I believed that things were based off of your ability to prove your skills. I believed that. I was naive, I guess. I didn't realize it was so controlled the way that it is, and it has dampened my enthusiasm for work. But I have to work, okay? And I do want to find something that's pleasant, but I don't think I'm ever going to be as enthusiastic about work ever again because of this eye-opening issue. Because of what I've seen, it was obvious to me that these people, that a lot of people get positions based on favors, not necessarily on what they're able to do. And that's very disheartening for someone like myself because I always knew that, maybe I didn't have much, but you know what? I was a hard worker. I was a reliable worker. I cared about my work. I was very enthusiastic. I always took on, challenges. I was willing to do more than what I was actually assigned to do or whatever. I always went the extra mile. And when I found out that none of that mattered, none of that mattered. What mattered is to get involved in office politics. What mattered was to get involved in, issues that are completely against, the guidelines of employment. And this is what raises you up. This is what gets you ahead in life. And that really did hurt me. It hurt me a lot, So it is shocking to me, but I have to go on somehow or another, and move on with my life, I don't, I go to work every day. It's a job that I really don't care for. I don't care for it, I prefer, working full time. I'm isolated because, I dress professionally for work and I wear a wig to work because I'm an African American woman. I get the feeling that my brother-in-law thinks that that I'm going to be, wanting to date somebody. I don't want to date anybody at work. The thing is, when it comes to work, I try to keep my reputation. I try to be. I don't want to bring reproach on myself in any way, shape, or form. I'm all about my work, all about it. Okay, and Jim is the kind of person. He's very sloppy. I know that. I think he was affiliated with the guy who took my idea at the farmer's place. And I know that there's some people who think that, it's okay to go to work in flip-flops and ripped shorts. I know when we went to this seminar a few years ago with this guy who I believe was associated with my brother-in-law, who stole my idea at work or whatever. He was the associate of the owner of that particular company. Now, when we went to this particular seminar, the girl and I drove. I think I drove. Was I the one who drove? I don't remember who drove. Okay, what doesn't matter. Anyway, we were dressed in professional attire to attend this particular seminar, and the guy who went with us showed up in, flip-flops, and everyone else was dressed, in professional clothes. Now, maybe, some people are tacky. They are tacky, and they think that, these things don't matter, but they do matter. They do matter. If I owned a company and my employees, or, a prospective employee came to me dressed in flip-flops and, their hair wasn't combed and they looked unkempt, why would I hire them? I wouldn't hire them. I would think, if you're going in front of a judge, don't you dress your best? And I know that people can't be that dumb. You can't possibly be that dumb. So I think that, my family is a little stubby. My ex-family is a little stubby, and they have very low standards. That's the only thing I can think of. Because I remember when we were driving down there, me and the girl were looking at each other like, he's not coming to this with, like, flip-flops, right? And sure enough, he got in the car, and we were, like, going, and I was like, oh, wow, And I'm not trying to judge people, but I'm just saying is that, you go to anything that's professional, anything, a job interview, you go to work every day, depending on what kind of environment you're in. You go to professional seminars, whatever, you're supposed, to me, it's a no-brainer. You put on professional attire. You wear slacks or a dress or a suit or whatever. I'm just tired of the nitpicking. I'm just sick of it. I'm tired of it. I don't want to do any more jobs for my family. My life goals were never meant to revolve around what was going to make them happy. I don't care about my family. I don't. You know what I mean? I don't. Not at this point. There was a time where I did care about my family, and but I never realized that they wanted to suck up my life. It was never something that was discussed with me that they wanted me to do jobs for them or whatever. This is no more. I don't care. I don't want it anymore. I do not want to work your jobs, okay? I don't want your religion. I don't want you telling me what to wear to work. I don't care. You know what I mean? That's just stupid. It is an idiotic thing to do or expect from a person. I think my sister and Tanya, I think they have issues. Tanya bends down to her husband because she feels trapped. He probably manipulates her employment so she can't leave. That's not my problem. You know what I mean? Whatever the case is, if she really cared about me, she wouldn't have sucked me into her personal problems. And then she's been doing this shit for many years, so I really don't care what happens to her. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video. I think I've said enough, but I think what I think I have uncovered and discovered, everything that is important in this issue. Like, I understand what was behind my targeting, and that's really important because I needed to understand what was going on because it was terrifying to me. Not knowing, and he brought all these people involved into it. I never even wanted people to know what I was doing after I got out of high school. I really felt like, maybe I'll say hi and bye to them on Facebook, but I really didn't want people to know me. Not that closely. I didn't want people to involve themselves. And he invites people into my life that I didn't ask for. You know what I mean? He is just nothing but baggage. He's baggage that I didn't ask for and I don't want. So I'm going to wrap up this video. Be back with another video some other time.